Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on this sunny Saturday. My name is Mai Yamaguchi. I'm the assistant curator of Japanese and Korean art here, and I curated the show upstairs called Chaos, Ken Matsubara's Buddhist Masterwork. A quick announcement before we begin. If you have your cell phones, please make sure they're on silent. We are recording this talk so that others who are missing this event can watch afterwards. We will have a few minutes for Q&A dedicated at the end, so please hold on to your questions. We will try to get to as many as possible. And then we are scheduled to finish around 2:45, but we have a special treat afterwards, so don't run off. And today we have Professor Arthur Mitchell from Macalester College who will be providing the translation for us. So it's my honor to introduce artist Ken Matsubara here today. He was born in Toyama Prefecture, Japan in 1948. Growing up in a relative's temple, he saw for the first time a copy of the Niga Byakudozu, which stayed in his mind throughout his life. As a child, he admired and copied traditional Buddhist artworks displayed throughout the temple complex. In his late 20s, he apprenticed with Sanko Inoue, a renowned Japanese painter of Western abstraction. Chaos, which is on display upstairs, marked a moment of synthesis and departure. His works are in private and public collections throughout Japan, such as the Ueno Royal Museum, the Hakone Open Air Museum, and the Museum of Modern Art, Toyama. We are the second in the United States to purchase a work by him after the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So without further ado, we will begin our conversation. So, 挨拶から。
こんにちは、松原健です。よろしくどうぞ。ようこそ皆さん来ていただいて嬉しく思っています。
Hi, I'm Matsubara Ken. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for coming.
まずカオスの話からしちゃっていいですか。
Yes, so the first question is, why did you paint chaos?
ちょっと今僕はとっても不思議ななんか考えに浸っているんですけれども、今こちらで展示されているカオスっていう作品は今から41年前、僕が35歳の時に制作したものです。
I am thinking about a lot of things today, and I'm reflecting on this painting that I made when I was 35, quite a long time ago.
大きい作品なものですからね、展示する場所も限られてしまって、こちらで展示していただいた、回数も含めて、これで5回目の展示です。はい。
It's quite a large piece, and because of that, there aren't too many places where it can be displayed in its fullness. This is the 5th time it has been displayed.
そして、この作品は多分僕と一緒に朽ちていくだろうなっていうふうに思っていた作品でもあります。
I always thought that this is a work that would rot away with me as I grew older.
人と人の出会いもそうなんですけどね、人との出会いでこう運命が変わっていくように、作品もやはりどういう人に会うかでもってその運命が変わっていきますね。
Just like with people, the types of people you meet, the connections, are often unexpected and faded. It's the same with the work of art. It brings you into connections you don't really think of, and those connections too seem faded.
それで3年ほど前なんですけれど、 今、世話になっている東京の銀座の一方堂というギャラリーで、個展をやっているときに、そこにいらしたコレクターにこのカオスの話をしたんです。
3 years ago, when I had a solo exhibition at Ippodo Gallery in Ginza, Tokyo, a gallery I work with frequently, I talked to a collector who came to the show about chaos.
その方はぜひそれを見てみたいっておっしゃって、私は栃木県の那須というところにいるんですが、そこまでわざわざ、東京からは2時間ぐらいかかるところなんですけど、おいでになりました。
This collector expressed interest in seeing this work, and even though I live in Nasu, in Tochigi Prefecture, about 2 hours away from Tokyo, he came to see it.
それで見て、お帰りになりまして、次の日なんですけど、ギャラリーを通じて、あの作品が欲しいと、コレクションしたいという知らせがギャラリーから来ました。
So he saw it and left. The next day, the gallery contacted me to say that this collector had told them that he wants that work and that he wants to collect it.
ではもう僕はとても喜んだんですね。今まで本当に僕と一緒に死んでしまうだろうと思っていた作品が蘇った瞬間だったものですから。
I was so happy about this. I couldn't believe it. Like I said, this was a work of art that I thought would just die along with me. And that was the moment it gained new life.
それでその時はまだパネルに仮張りといいますかね、そういう状態だったんですが、じゃあお嫁に行くんだったらちゃんと表装して屏風に仕立てて収めようという話になりまして、表装に出しました。
At the time, the painting was just mounted on panels. If it was going to leave the nest, so to speak, I wanted to have them mounted properly as screens, so I sent them off to get mounted.
それで表装が仕上がってきてギャラリーに届いたんですね。
Once the mounting was done, it was delivered to the gallery.
それでそれを見たらやはり本表層にするとやっぱり緊張感が出てとてもいい具合になったんです。それを見たオーナーがこれを売るの嫌だって言い始めたんですね。
When we saw the final mounting, we realized that it had imbued the work with a certain tension, and it felt right. When the owner of the gallery saw this, she said, "We can't sell this."
それでそこのオーナーのお嬢さん、娘さんがニューヨークでニューヨーク一方堂というギャラリーをやっています。今話をした彼女です。
The owner's daughter runs Ippodo Gallery in New York.
彼女のところにそれを持っていきたいというただをこね始めました。
And the owner stubbornly said that she wants to take it to her daughter to New York.
それでアジアンウィーク、ニューヨークのアジアンウィークの時にその展覧会をやっていただいて、その折にミネアポリスの、キュレーターの方たちもその会場に来ていただいたんですね。はい、
So Ippodo in New York hosted an exhibition of it during Asia Week, and the MIA curators came to visit.
そういう経緯で今僕はここに座っています。
That is why I am sitting here.
So that was how we ended up getting a work that the gallery owners didn't want to sell for before, but we are very lucky to be able to have it here. Matsubara-san, can you talk a little bit about how you ended up, what inspired you to paint chaos?
僕に分かるように話して。
経緯です。カオスのインスピレーションとか。
カオスを書くようになった全員ですか。
井上さん。
はい。そうですね。ちょっと長くなっても大丈夫。はい。はい。僕の、兄が、福井県の今城というところでお寺の住職をしてましてね。
My brother is an abbot of a temple in Fukui.
その時はね、よく遊びに行ってたんですけど、その時は井上三公、僕の師の井上三公が亡くなって少し傷心の、思いでその兄のお寺に行ったんです。
My mentor and teacher, Inoue Sanko, just passed away, and I was in a period of mourning and grieving, and it was in this state that I went to my older brother's temple.
そのお寺でとても不思議な体験をしましてね、音に関わる体験なんですけれど。
It was here that I had such a mysterious experience.
で、その体験のおかげで、音をテーマにした作品を書いていこう、制作していこうっていう方向性が見えたんですけれど。
The experience had to do with hearing a certain sound, and it was during at this juncture, at this moment, that I began to think of the idea of painting sound.
ただ、その三公が生前僕に言ったことがまだ心の中にちょっと刺さっていましてね、君の中にはちょっとまだ不健康なところが見える。で、その不健康なところっていうのは、どういうことですかって聞いたら、パワーなのか、それとも不健康さなのかって聞いたら、その不健康、パワーはいいんだけれども、不健康さはちょっと気になる。
At the time, there was something that my mentor, my teacher, who had just passed away, something he had said to me while he was alive. It was a comment that continues to stay with me. Basically, he told me that there was something unhealthy in my work. And I wanted to know, what did he mean by that? Was it unhealthy in a powerful way, or unhealthy in a way that was unhealthy?
で、何でもない健康にならないと、真の感動は得られないよっていう言葉がずっとこのこだましていたんです。
My teacher, his words were that unless you are healthy, you cannot experience true emotions, true joy. And it's a word, it's one of his sayings that have stayed with me even till today.
それで、音のシリーズのいわゆる、テーマははっきり見えてはきていたんですけれど、その詩から言われたその言葉を解決するために自分の中のこのドロドロとした、ヘドロのようなね、そういうものを全部吐き出してしまわないといけないなと思ったんですね。
So I had in conception this idea of painting sound, but these words of my teacher, they continued to sort of fester in me. They created this sort of drudgery in my own body. And one of the motivations for this work was to do something with this, to try and deal with it, reconcile it, or expel it in some way.
それで、それを吐き出すための政策をっていうふうに考えたときに、幼い頃、お寺に住んでたときに見た二河白道という絵を思い出しました。
So in order to try to go about dealing with or expelling these feelings that had built up because of these words, I looked for inspiration to an image that I had encountered when I was quite young, when I was 9 years old.
これはとてもいい写真なんですけど、これほど立派なものを見たわけじゃないんですけれどね、何しろ、浄土宗っていう仏教の中でも浄土宗っていう教えがありまして、そこの禅道というマスターが比喩のためにこの絵を利用したんですね。まあ、いわゆる人間の心の迷いだとかいろんな煩悩、そういったようなものを盗賊ですとか、それからいろんな獣ですね、そういうものに追いかけ回されてずっと逃げ惑って、突き当たったところが火の川と水の川に挟まれて、もうどうにもならなくなってしまう。
So this is quite a pretty rendition of this subject. The version I saw was not so pretty. In Buddhism, there is a branch called Pure Land Buddhism, and this was used by a master called Zendo as a parable. It shows someone getting chased by all sorts of human vices and hesitations in the guise of bandits and beasts. He runs and ends up at a crossroads of a river of fire and a river of water and becomes helpless.
そこで逃げ惑ってきた人は、あまり宗教心はなかったんですけど、その時初めて阿弥陀如来に対して南無阿弥陀仏っていうことを心の底から救いを求めたんですね。
The fleeing person wasn't too religious, but at that moment, for the first time, he pleaded for help from the bottom of his heart to the Amida Buddha and chanted Namu Amu Amida Butsu.
そうすると、そこの火の川と水の川との間に白い細い道が阿弥陀如来に向かってずっと一本現れて、それを渡って阿弥陀のもとへ渡っていったという、そういう比喩の絵なんですね。
Then, between the rivers of fire and water, a thin white road appeared. He crossed the river and reached the Amida. That's the parable depicted here. So in this image, in this parable, like I said, there are two rivers of human avarice. One is about greed and the other one is about worldly attachment. But in the middle, there is a white path. And that path, if you follow it, leads to the foot of the Amida or the Pure Land.
Yeah, and in the left hand, the detail, you can actually see there's a person in between the red river and then well, it looks brown, but it's supposed to be the white river. So he's crossing that little path, and on the other side, you can see the Amida Buddha waiting on the little patch of green.
これを幼い頃に見て、そのカオスを描こうと制作しようと思った時にこれを思い出して、自分なりの二我白道を制作しようと思ってやったのがカオスです。
I saw this parable when I was little, and it came back to me when I was painting chaos. I painted chaos wanting to create my own rendition of the white path between two rivers.
それで今回のこちらの美術館での展示、インスタレーションは彼女がやってくれたんですけれど。
And so the installation, the presentation, the display that you see here in this museum today is the result of Curator Yamaguchi's very hard work.
もうとても素晴らしい。はい。ありがとうございます。もう理想的なインスタレーションをしてもらいました。
It's really amazing. I'm full of gratitude. It's the ideal installation.
ありがとう。そうね。それで カオスは今お話ししたように、その祈ることによって、阿弥陀の世界に行く世界を描いてるんですけれど、カオスは。その対面に彼女はタイママンダラという浄土の世界のこちらの美術館のコレクションのタイママンダラをかけてくれたんですね。それもとってもいわゆるカオスの向こう側の世界をかけてくれたので、ちょうどなんていうのかな、なんていう理想的な本当に陳列です。展示です。
So in the display, if you go and see it, across or facing my work is a work that was selected from the Mia collection. It was the Taima mandala from the 15th century, 14th century. And I am so honored to have my work and presented in this way. To me, what is striking is that across from the chaos of my work is the purity of this mandala facing it on the other side.
And here you can see, using the Nara National Museum model, you can see that Ken's painting is very much the bottom part of the painting, and then you have the Pure Land. So I was trying to express the Pure Land with the Taima mandala in the gallery upstairs. So a lot of visitors at Mia have asked about the connection to Western art, Chaos's connection to Western art. Can you tell us a little bit about your inspirations or things that you were thinking of artistically when you made Chaos?
カオスについては皆さんちょっとピカソの「ゲルニカ」をイメージされる方がいらして、それに影響されたのかっていうお話が随分ありますけれど、確かにゲルニカを見た時のショックというか、それはもう自分の心の中にずっともう入り込んでしまったもので、カオスを描くときにそれを意識しながらっていうことではなくて、無意識のうちにそういうものが出てきたと思っています。
There have been those who, when viewing my work Chaos, wondered whether I was influenced by the work Guernica by Pablo Picasso. And thinking about that, I thought there was an interesting point there. The piece had a big impact on me when I first saw it, but I was not conscious of the work as I was making my own. However, it's quite possible the case that it happened unconsciously, that Pablo Picasso's work influenced me as I worked on my own.
So, thank you. I think a lot of people who have seen Chaos are wondering how you created, what kind of techniques you use in the making of your screens. So.
これは自分のうちの仕事場でやっている映像ですけど。
This is the studio at my house.
It's outside.
テクニックは企業秘密ですので、ここに見ただけにしておいてください。
These techniques are secret, so please don't share this.
Is that a stencil that you're using?
はい、そう、ステンシルのいわゆる型がちょっと分厚いものだっていうふうに思っていただければいいですね。
Yes, it is a stencil. Of quite, it's a thick stencil.
その都度、型、プラスチックの板なんですけど、丸い穴は自分で開けて、この作品によってその道具を作ってますね。
Do you want to take that?
So basically it's made out of plastic. It's a plastic sheet, and then he cuts out the circles himself. For every work, he makes his own kind of tools. And what kind of pigments do you use? 絵の具。
そうそう。そうですね。自分の、なんかな、なんて言っていいんだろう。テクニック、技術が、表に前面に出てくる、絵を若い頃描いてたんですけど、それに非常に嫌悪感を覚えて、描くっていう行為をいっぺん捨てようと思って、こういう方法を取り始めたんですね。それで絵の具もすごくプリミティブな原始的な土ですとかベンガラですとかカーボン、炭ですね。いわゆるアルタミラの洞窟絵だとか古墳の壁画に書いてあるようなそんなようなものを自分で作って使い始めましたね。
When I was young, I was painting images that showed off my technique, but I started to feel a sort of revulsion toward that. I wanted to leave behind this idea of painting, so I shifted to this new method. My pigments are primitive. I use soil, red iron oxide, carbon, or sumi ink, like those used in the cave paintings of Altamira or tomb murals. And I started making them myself.
Yeah, so he was inspired as a painter, he kind of thought that he wanted to return to the purest form in a sense, which is why he's thought about the pigments that were used in cave paintings, and which is why he's incorporated dirt in his own practice.
制作はほとんど野外でやってます。このように。
Most of my work is done inside? Outside. Okay.
それでこれ今制作中の作品は日月空海っていうタイトルなんですけど、空海っていうお坊さん、日本の有名なお坊さんですけどね、平安時代のその人をテーマにした作品です。
This work is called Nishigetsu Kukai. Kukai was an important figure in the Heian period.
で、この作品は、今月の14日、ニューヨークの一方堂で、陳列されます。
いつですか？いつですか
？14日。
14日。
はい、今月の14日です。
So this month on the 14th, this work will be on display at the Ippudo Gallery in New York.
ぜひ来てください。
Please come.
今こう糸をピンと張って、
You can see
直
them
線
pulling.
をこう引いてましたけど、これ絵描きはあんまりこういうことやらないで、大工さんが木に墨をポンと直線を引くときによくやるテクニックですね。
You can see me using strings here. It's not a typical technique for painters. Actually, it's something more often used by carpenters when they're trying to create lines in their work.
ご覧のようにあんまり絵を描くっていう絵描きの作業とはちょっと程遠いような制作の仕方ですね。
As you can see, these techniques are quite far from what you might imagine that a painter would use.
左官屋さんってあります？左官。はい、わかりますか？壁を塗る職人さん。
So like a painter of walls, a wall painter. That's how I feel.
はい。これはね、まだ、同じような作業してますよ。 プラスチックの型でステンシル。これはね、やっぱり土の中に、墨を少し入れて、グレーにして、で、全面をこのそのグレーの土でもって、塗ってるところですね。全面同じトーンにするために。
I add dirt to the ink here, and that creates this special color and texture.
So a part of his process is what he calls burying his painting in soil. So this is what he's doing. He's covering the entire surface with this mixture of ink and soil. And then afterwards, he kind of buffs it out. It's kind of amazing to me as a curator to see that he just uses a roller.
全部愛調子になるわけですね。全部同じよう
So he lets it dry.
に。そこに今度薄い墨を重ねていって調子をつけていますね。
And this is I finished the painting.
Ink.
This is I finish it with ink.
それが乾いた後、今度は、いわゆる接着剤、メジウムを入れない水だけで溶いた土で、いっぺん土の中にこの作品を埋めてやるような作業をします。
So when that dries, I use a holder, a glue, but a glue that doesn't involve chemicals. It's just water and earth.
Yeah.
And this is what I use to so-called bury my work. This is the material. This is what I use.
And these are all mixed by him.
これが乾いたところですね。
This is where it's dried.
そしてこの後、発掘現場から出てきた泥の中に埋まっている土器のかけらとかありますよね。それを手で払うと模様が出てくるじゃないですか。そういう作業に入ってきて、とっても楽しい作業なんです。僕にとってみると。
I think I understand this correctly. When you dig up or excavate things from the earth, there's a process where you brush it to reveal the surface, a beautiful surface. It's this sense of discovery that I am trying to create or recreate here in my work.
So as he buffs it out, the colors appear.
そうです。
And then at the end, he applies the gold.
はい。これはキラって言って、雲母の粉をメジウムで溶いたものですね。
This is called kira, and
雲母。わかります。
Mike.
oh, thank you. It's made of mica.
It's a very traditional pigment in Japan, the use of mica. It's a little shiny. It also is three-dimensional.
これも絵描きの作業じゃなくて、どっちかというとケーキ職人みたいですね。
This is not the work of a painter. This is actually a cake, like a baker. This is what a baker does. I thought he said.
これが乾くととってもキラキラと光ってとても綺麗です。光が当たると。
When this dries, it really sparkles and it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, the end product looks like this.
こんなだけですね。いえ、あとは何かご質問があったら。で、まだ時間早いですか？
Then one last question for you.
42
Is there anything you would like to tell your past self?
昔の自分に言いたいこと。ミネアポリスに来れたよ。
I made it to Minneapolis.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we will switch to Q&A. Just 5 minutes though, because we have to go upstairs. Yes, please. Oh, wait for the microphone, please.
It's for accessibility. There is a significant theme of texture going on in your art. Can you explain why this is important? And when we see it in a museum, it makes us want to touch it, which obviously is a no-no.
触り具合についてなんかすごく重要な芸術の中の重要な部分だそうです。はい。それについてもうちょっと説明してください。で、見る側としてやっぱり触りたくなるというような感じです。
ここの美術館では許してくれるかどうかわかりませんけれど、ダメ。ね。
No, no one is allowed to touch that.
I was wondering if this might be allowed at this museum.
とっても皆さんで触りたがります。はい。それで僕の、ふるさとの富山の美術館では、触っていい作品の、展覧会をやることあるんですね。その時には僕の作品出します。
Yes, I totally understand your reaction. Many of people who view my work want to touch it. And in fact, there are some museums in my home prefecture in Toyama that have days when or certain works that you are permitted to touch. And on those days, they bring out certain works of my own.
それでですね、いわゆる盲学校、目の見えない子たちを招待する時があるんです。触っていい展覧会の時は。
Specifically, they're special exhibits when they are in particular inviting blind. And it's very special for them to be able to touch.
そして僕の作品を触ってくれて、音が聞こえるって言ってくれたようです。
It's apparently some of them after feeling it with their fingers and hands exclaimed, "It's a sound! It's a sound!"
とっても嬉しかったです。
I was so happy to hear that.
By doing chaos process. In the process of making chaos, did you get more in touch with the nature of your unhealthiness and what it was?
作品を制作することに通じて自分の健康を感じました。復帰できました。
そうですね。まだ不健康でのものがいっぱいありますね。
No, there are many unhealthy parts still.
これはどうにもなりません。
I can't do anything about it.
Can you imagine your painting being juxtaposed against another painting 1,000 years from now? And what would you like that to look like?
Mm.
でも、もしこんなことが、叶うことがあるんだったら、僕の師匠の井上三光の書いた、大色町という作品があるんですけれど、それと一緒に並んで展示されたら、ハッピー。
If I can be allowed to imagine something like that, I think of a work by my mentor and teacher, Inoue Sanko, called Oshikicho. If my work, were to be displayed alongside or next to his, I would be so happy.
Last question.
How do you make your dirt archival? I mean, I know it's not gonna lose its color, but how does it stick?
土はどうやってくっついてる？
僕が今使ってるのは、木工用ボンドってどう言えばいいんでしょう。ボンド。
He mixes it with glue.
秘密
Is it supposed to be a secret?
いわゆる木と木をくっつけるボンドがあるじゃないですか。それを使ってます。
There's a glue that you
Imagine.
use to stick together wood on wood, and that's what I use.
はい。
So thank you very much for your help. So now we have a surprise that you've been waiting for. 大倉さん立っていただけますか? So we have a surprise performance by Shonosuke Okura, who is standing over there. Shonosuke Okura was born into the founding family of the Okura school of Otsuzumi, the large hand drum, and Kotsuzumi, small hand drum, musical accompaniment for no theater performances. He learned to play from his father Chojuro and grandfather Choemon and started accompanying no performances at the age of 9. He is a holder of important tangible cultural property, living national treasure of No Otsuzumi, which is a big deal. He's very actively involved in international exchange and performing together with artists from around Japan and overseas. He's also the representative director of the Reiwa Bunkagura, a foundation that promotes the preservation and transmission of traditional Japanese crafts. So we're very pleased to have him. We will now move up to Chaos and he will perform an original composition there. So, yeah. He wants to say something.
Good evening. 素晴らしいハウスおめでとうございます。Congratulations. スペシャルハウス。私は実は80年代、90年代、ミネアポリスが拠点でした。80年から90年代。
Oh, thank you. I was in Minneapolis in the 80s and the 90s.
それで全米で、実は日本の伝統のそういう音楽を広める活動をしていたんです。
I've been involved in activities since then, spreading traditional Japanese music across the United States.
名前が、ツクスマっていう、ちょっと面白い名前のグループを作って、活動していました。
The name of my group is Tsukusuma. It's an interesting name.
TSUXMA。そしてその時のメンバーが実は今日来てくれてます。
Members of that group are here with me today.
ユミさん、何人かね、今日来てくださいました。
Several of them have come here today.
私もこう、ミディアプレスは10年以上、もっとでしょうかね。20年ぶり ?20 年ぶりぐらいなので、とても懐かしく、今日、ここでの講演も確か何かしたんだと思います。はい。
It's been about a gap of about 20 years. I do remember doing an event here, but it's wonderful to be back here again.
Thank you very much.